Hi, my name is Winslaya, and welcome to my tier list video covering the 5 ruler governor bonuses that the 5 ruler origins get in Age of Wonders 4. We may get more rulers in the future development of the game, and the devs are likely going to change a few of the numbers that we're going to discuss today, so please keep that in mind as we go through this video. As you can see on screen, Mortal Champions get these bonuses as they rank up their Renown bonus. And if we move over to Wizard Kings, we can see that they get these bonuses. And then Dragon Lords get these bonuses. And the Eldritch Sovereigns get these bonuses. And the Giant Kings get these bonuses. As you can see, they're all quite unique and play quite differently. All right, now that we've gone over that, we're ready to start building our actual tier list. My favorite out of all of the ruler governor bonuses is the one that you get for the Giant King. It is quite good. It has a lot of synergies going for it, which we really have to dive back into the game to see properly. Okay, so for this playthrough on this map, I was able to get to Renown level 4 on turn 13 using the Privateer ambition. If we go to our ruler here, we can actually see that they have this ambition, which is relatively easy to complete compared to some of the other ambitions. And I have done a other tier list video covering the ambitions a couple months ago, but a few things have changed since then. For example, fortification health is different, so they changed the defender so that you need less fortification on your city to get your major ambition completed. But I'd still think, generally speaking, Privateer is going to be one of the easiest ones to complete when you're playing on the right type of map. Basically, when you're playing on maps with lots of naval battles and some water infestations for you to complete your major ambition off of. Generally speaking, I think most ambitions can be completed around turn 20 to 30, but this one just gets online a little bit quicker. And what really helps with this strategy on this build is you get so much out of the Renown bonuses. Every level here does something amazing. Getting +5 production from your quarries is pretty amazing all on its own. It will let you build the stuff in your city a little bit quicker, and then you'll be able to get more benefits out of things like this Wizard's Tower foundation just a little bit earlier in the game. And then the fact that the next level makes it so city structures cost less gold has really, really good synergy, because it just lets you focus a lot on building those higher tier things that can cost more gold without waiting to replenish your gold supplies. The next level says each quarry will give you +1 binding fragments, which I've talked quite a bit about in some of my other videos, but it is worth highlighting that this resource is incredibly important for forging the higher tier items. If you go in here to the item forge, you'll see that when you try to create like a tier 4 weapon that has a lot of things on it, you'll need this relatively new resource. We're almost at the point. There we go. There we have some binding fragments that are associated with this. And if we hover over here, we can see that I'm getting +4 binding fragments just from my governor bonus. I know there are other passive ways to build this up, but generally speaking, the way you're supposed to get this is by disenchanting or taking apart tier 3 items that you're not going to use. So like this one can give me 25 binding fragments, or I can just passively build it up using the governor bonus. Well, that's one of the best bonuses out of all of the things that you can get on your main ruler, and it comes online at the tier 3. It's not even the last level of what you get as a Giant King. At the last level, it makes it so all of your city structures will grant +2 gold in addition to their normal effects. So this is massive. This will make it so that your economy kind of skyrockets as soon as you hit level 4. And then on top of that, you get the ability to draft units based off of your Giant King's type. This one is a storm giant, so we're going to be able to recruit these storm giants, and the rock giant can recruit rock giants, the fire giant can recruit fire giants, and the frost giant king can recruit the frost giant units. Basically, once you get to this level and you have the building that lets you make them. If we go in here, we can see we don't have the town hall level 4, which makes sense. We're only on turn 13. This came online pretty early, relatively speaking. So most other ambitions will get unlocked by the time that you're able to actually make this unit. And that's super unique. I know a lot of people are saying that this is not an amazing tier 4 unit, generally speaking, but being able to access that through not technology, not this research path, but through clearing the map the way that you define using your Renown is really unique, and I think pretty powerful across the board. And then what we can do here to really illustrate what we got for getting to level 4 is go back a turn, because we just completed this major ambition on this turn. All right, as you can see down here, I just rolled back the turn to turn 12, and the ruler has one less renown bonus than what we were just looking at, and I'm making about 16 less gold per turn, which might not sound like a lot, but it actually becomes quite a significant amount of gold once you reach the mid to late game and you have a lot more city structures in your city. And even at this point, it's generally helpful to have a little bit more gold than less, because that will help you get a little bit more units out on the map and help you clear out more fights, which is generally a good thing to do in this type of game. And then the other thing we could do before moving on to the next ruler bonus is quickly compare what the scholarly governor gets compared to what my wizard king, not my wizard king, what my giant king was granting us, and then talk about how this one is actually generally a lot better than what the other ruler bonuses get across the board. But there are going to be situations where you get more value out of that ruler bonus on your ruler because that's attached to your main city here, which is generally going to be a bigger city, a better city than your secondary ones. So this scholarly governor is one of people's favorite across the board. I think when I did cover the ambitions and the governor bonuses last, this one was S tier or A tier, right at the top of the list. So it gives you basically more research for research posts that you have. And while you're probably not going to have a lot of research posts, this leans into it enough that people do invest in it and they get a lot of value out of that knowledge. Generally speaking, knowledge is one of those resources that is valued more highly in Age of Wonders 4, and you want to try and get that, say, before you get excess mana. You don't need a lot of excess mana or mana income, so that's kind of like undervalued when it comes to trying to get resources inside of your empire. The second level is okay. It's pretty meaningless to get just 5 more stability for each research post, and that's actually very similar to one of the things the Wizard Kings gets, but this is slightly worse. The Wizard King gets a slightly better one, but it doesn't really make it a good ruler bonus. It's still pretty bad. But the main selling point for the scholarly governor here is that you get extra knowledge for each population that you have at level 3, and then at level 4 you get plus 10% knowledge income. That's pretty massive. So keep that in mind when you're considering these ruler level bonuses that you can apply to your faction. The next ruler bonus we're going to dive into and take a closer look at are these Eldritch Sovereigns, which I think are quite good. They're relatively good bonuses to get, but not the best, which is why it lands itself in the A tier. These bonuses that you get on the Eldritch Sovereign's Governor when you get Renown are incredibly powerful in the mid to late game, but the first two are really tricky to get value out of in the early game. As you can see, I just got to Renown level 3 on turn 6, and that is right around when I'm able to start getting my Town Hall level 2. Before that, you're not able to build the special province improvements, so you aren't able to really take advantage of this aspect of the Eldritch Sovereign until around the mid game. You can start to take advantage of this in the early game, but not generally speaking in the first 5, 6, or 7 turns of the game. You won't be able to get value out of these first few things in the first like 5, 6, or 7 turns of a game. But after you get past that initial hurdle, you'll start to get some really good bonuses that add up and synergize really well. The fact that you're going to be able to build those special province improvements for less gold and production means you'll be able to get them online faster, and then it will make more sense to have them in your cities because they give extra stability. It will be worth the investment more so than they already are worth. And it's one of those things that I generally overlook and don't build a lot of these, and I think I kind of make the late game harder for myself by not really interacting with this stuff. It is generally quite good, and having the extra bonuses on top of that is a very meaningful bonus. But the main selling point for this is what you get at tier 3 and tier 4. The tier 4 is just outright amazing. Each population inside your city granting +2 knowledge may not seem like a lot of knowledge, but every little bit you can get is super valuable. The extra mana can be good because I can allow you to cast more spells, support more summons, or be able to pay the upkeep for those summons. But generally speaking, that one is less impactful than the knowledge. But of course, there are going to be certain situations when you're running really low on mana, and having this extra mana income from this thing that isn't too hard to unlock can be very, very valuable. Another thing that's worth noting before we move on is I took the Delver ambition here to try and unlock this stuff relatively quickly and relatively easily. And one thing I noted is I believe this used to be 50 renown that you'd get for excavating a province, but they may have made it a little bit harder to build up these points. I'm not entirely sure. As you can see here at this point, even though we were able to get to this point pretty easily, we won't be able to complete the major ambition again. To get another 150 renown, we're going to need to excavate not 4 more provinces, but 8 more provinces. And if we just take a look around the map, we know about 1, 2, and that's it. So it will take quite a bit more time to get to that last level using this ambition, but I did want to discuss that briefly. The next ruler we're going to take a closer look at is Champion. I think Champions have bonuses that are about as good as what the Eldritch Sovereigns get. I think on certain maps and certain situations, the Eldritch Sovereigns will be better rulers for creating that governor bonus, but I think generally speaking, the champions are going to be a little bit easier to get similar value out of. For example, if we take a closer look at the Renown reward bonuses, we'll see at the first level, each farm grants +5 food for the champion governor. And while I'm not a big fan of that general province type, I think that this really leans well into what the next 2 Renown bonuses give you, which is basically making it so that you can grow more pops with your food income, and then you get some resource income for each population inside your city. For example, I think we're getting +9 gold for our city with 9 population, and a little bit of extra mana and a little bit of extra knowledge. And as we discussed earlier, the best one here is definitely the extra knowledge income, but it also doesn't hurt to have the extra income on these other resource types. The best part of this governor bonus is easily the last one, the 4th one, which is a little bit less connected to all of these other parts. The first 3 levels synergize really, really neatly and well together, but being able to recruit units for less gold and less draft is something that's not really tied to population, unless you count like growing your population so that you can build those higher tier units so you can get access to the Town Hall 3 and the Town Hall 4 and build like your tier 3s, and if you get access to building tier 4 units so that you can build them. But even at the lower levels, it is nice to spend less gold and less draft on building like even your tier 2 units that can help you clear the map a little bit more efficiently. I did also want to briefly show off that I used the Imperialist ambitions to farm up a lot of renown with this champion. I just generally think that this one is going to be a little bit easier to accomplish than some of the others, so figured it'd be worth pointing out quickly here. The next ruler type we're going to look at, Wizard King, is one that I think might change quite a bit after I record this video, because they recently made the change that made it so that Wizard Kings no longer get casting points from leveling up, and now they can get some more casting points from this Renown track interaction. And generally speaking, you don't get a lot of value out of this, and I have been hearing from members of the multiplayer community that this is the least played, not just because of the ruler bonus to their city, because the dragon rulers do have a worse one, but the dragon rulers are still relatively playable because of how well they perform in combat, whereas the Wizard Kings are just generally not good in combat or economy right now. Now let's actually take a closer look at what you get at each level of Renown bonus here. You basically get a little bit of extra mana for each special province improvement that's attached to your city. And as I discussed earlier, it's going to take a while to get your special province improvements online, so this isn't something that you can really get a lot out of in the early game, and even in the mid to late game, just getting a little bit of extra mana isn't that amazing. It's one of the least valued resources, generally speaking. And then getting just +5 casting points and world map casting for this Renown level isn't amazing. At first, when I read this, I thought it said every special and province improvement would give you more casting points, but I don't believe that's actually how this works. And same with the next level. Each conduit or research post will give you extra stability on your city, but it won't give you an extra 5 casting points and world map casting. That just happens once when you reach this level of Renown. So basically, if you have a full thing of Renown on a Wizard King, you're going to have 20 more extra casting and in the world map and in combat. If we look up here, we can see we're getting that bonus for King Alfred. The Elder Stone is +5 multiple times. I think Wizard Kings across the board just have +10 more casting points. But I think that's generally a pretty big nerf compared to what they used to get for leveling up their guys. And now at the next level, at Renown level 3, you get the extra knowledge, which is good. Don't get me wrong, that is pretty good, but it isn't enough to make up for the fact that everything else in here is just not that amazing. And then the last one is more mana, which, as I discussed not too long ago, I'm not a very big fan of things that give me a little tiny bit more mana, and just having 10% more mana income, while okay, isn't going to really add up to anything super meaningful most of the time. The last ruler governor bonus we're going to look at here is what you get on your dragon rulers, and they are pretty straightforward. They're not amazing at creating good economy, but that's okay because, like I mentioned earlier, dragons are just phenomenal in auto combat. If we take a look over here, we can see that I'm just now getting my dragon to Renown level 4 on turn 7 here, which is quite quick, and not every map is going to generate in a way that allows you to pick off as many fights as I was able to here. But as you can see here, I was able to start next to the water and clear a lot of nodes up this way, down this way, and over this way to get myself to Renown level 4. And now I can make it so that my mines create more gold. They make my city a little bit happier, and I get more gold on my cities for having more population. When I have more population in my city, I'll get a little bit of extra gold income. That's +2 gold for each population. And the last level gives me just 10% more gold. And one thing that's worth mentioning about this city stability boost here that is relevant for the Wizard Kings is that doesn't really help counteract that much. It just kind of deals with the fact that you would be getting minus some stability for a province that is attached to your city. So like, for example, usually when you annex something like this, you'll see -5 stability for this farm. But because we got the special thing for mines, now we won't have to deal with that very minor penalty. It's not a very big penalty at the end of the day, but it is something that you can get around with this governor bonus on dragons and on Wizard Kings. They get a similar interaction on conduits, but it's very, very meaningless relative to what other people can get on their Renown level reward bonuses. And yeah, that's pretty much everything I wanted to share with you in this video. And while we could dive into other topics that are somewhat related, I have kind of covered those things in other videos, although some things have changed. For example, now we have the addition of the Trollkin governor type for heroes again. It was something that was taken out of the game and reintroduced recently. And there are other things that you, for example, can't have on your ruler. The elitist tag here is designed for your secondary heroes to get. And that kind of stuff is something that I have already covered in quite a bit of detail in my other videos. So please feel free to check that out if you want to know more about these types of interactions. I'll see you around and have a good day.